All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 20 of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I'm once again joined by Ryan. It's been another great week of sports. Basketball, we officially know who will be playing for the NBA Finals. Another great week of NFL games. And the MLB has been, or the MLB, the wildcard matchups have officially been announced for the MLB.
Mhm.
So, Ryan, I'm going to hand it off to you to get us started with some NBA. And I guess we should just talk about the conference finals a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
want to hear your thoughts a little bit on the Lakers beating the Nuggets in 5 games.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you called this. As the series began, you said Lakers. I believe you said Lakers in five. Actually, did you not?
I did. I'll pat
So you,
myself on the back for that one.
yeah, yeah. So you redeemed yourself from the Clippers Nuggets prediction and got
I
this one
did.
exactly right. I don't know. I really just thought that the Nuggets just looked tired at the end. I mean, they've played a ton of basketball. I saw a stat that said they've played almost as many games in the bubble as they have in Denver this year. So they've
Wow.
played, yeah, so they've played a lot of basketball, and I just really think that uh, I'm sorry, hold on. I think that Jamal Murray was hurt at the in the last game. He hurt his arm, I believe, in his leg as well. You could see he was just slow
He was
the whole
shaking
game.
up. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
shaking up.
and they just looked tired. I don't know. Jeremy Grant did a great job, but I mean Jamal Murray was 7 for 17 in Game 5. I mean Jokic played fine, but I think the story here is just LeBron James. LeBron James is just sensational. 38 points in Game 5 with 16 boards and 10 assists. All around amazing game. Anthony Davis as well, 27 points, hit a couple big shots. And I don't know. The Lakers are just the better team with LeBron and AD, and they showed it in this series and just thoroughly outplayed them. So I mean, there's really to me not that much to say other than the Nuggets gave it their all in all of these series, and they were just a little too tired to compete with a great team like the Lakers with two top 10 NBA players.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you just said. And before to the Lakers, I do want to give the Denver Nuggets a lot of credit. They proved me, they proved a lot of people wrong, especially in that Clippers series. The first team in NBA history to come back from 3-1 down twice. And look, they just ran out of steam, like you said. One second, I'm sorry. Pulling up
That's
a
okay.
stat here. I apologize.
That's okay. No, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Lakers just, I mean, they just thoroughly outplayed them. I mean,
All right, my bad. Back to the Lakers. I think the focus of this series and what the focus should be of this series is LeBron James. And I think LeBron James proved why he is still the best player in the world by far. And you talked about Jamal Murray struggling. A lot of that had to do with LeBron James, especially in game 4, where LeBron James said, I want to guard Jamal Murray. I want that guy. Jamal Murray had been cooking. He cooked in game 3. He was whipping up a really strong performance in game 4. And LeBron James took the challenge of guarding Jamal Murray. And let's talk about what he did on the offensive side. I mean, in game 5, 38, 16, and 10, he scored, I think, their last 9 points or something like that. He hit shot after shot after shot. They were tough shots, too. I mean, they were not easy looks. He closed out that series. And you saw the game. He wasn't celebrating. He knew that winning the Western Conference Finals meant legit almost nothing to him. He wants to win the real NBA Finals.
mhm.
And I'm really impressed with how LeBron James played. Anthony Davis obviously had his moments too, especially in game 2 with that big shot. A lot of credit should go to Denver, and I think Denver will be an elite team for years to come because Jokic and Murray are that duo. That's an all-star caliber duo for the next 5 years. And if they can get a guy like Michael Porter Jr., Jeremy Grant to take that next step, that can be a very, very, very good basketball team for years to come.
Yeah, and you know what? You did make a really good point. I want to touch on one more thing before I move on, and that is the fact that these two players in Jokic and Murray are going to be great for years to come. And to me, I mean, like I said, remember a few podcasts ago, I was kind of talking about Jamal Murray. Like, I don't really think he's all that great. And I mean, boy, did he prove me wrong. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he cemented himself as one of the top point guards in the NBA, particularly with his duo with Jokic. And you made a great point. Who else is going to step up? I think Michael Porter Jr. is that guy. I think they drafted him to be the next. I don't want to say star, but the next impactful player for this team. And I feel like he could have done more in this series and the playoffs in general. They didn't play him as much as I thought they would. I mean, he only played about 17 minutes in game 5. He averaged probably around 20 minutes a game in the series. And if I was Denver, I would have played him a little more because he is one of the few players on that team that can create looks for himself outside of Jokic and Murray. So I don't know. Maybe I would have played him a little more. But we'll see how he progresses in the next few years, but I think that he, along with Murray and Jokic, will be definitely a force to be reckoned with in the future.
And
And
yeah,
sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead. You go ahead.
one quick point. So I think he's that piece that they need to become a championship team.
Mm,
Denver has the front court. They have the all star in the back court with Murray, but they're missing that like big wing who can get a shot. Jeremy Grant isn't a guy who can really create his own offense. Torrey Craig, same here. And Michael Porter Jr. is that guy that he has the size. He's a big dude. I think he's like 6'8",
yep,
6'9", or something like that. Maybe something like that.
I think so.
And he can create his own shot, and he is instant offense for that team. So if he can find his stride in the NBA, I know he's had injury issues for a lot of his young career so far, but
Mm.
if he can find his stride, that is a dangerous Denver Nuggets team. And I'm looking forward to watching how they progress in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I am as well, and we'll see what happens. But I think with that, we can move on to the other conference finals matchup, which
Do
everyone
it.
was looking forward to in the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. And Trevor, I mean, take it away. What are your thoughts on the Miami Heat winning this in six?
I thought this was a great series, and honestly, it Miami won the series in six, but I thought it could have gone either way. Boston blew double-digit leads in each of the first games, and it
Mm,
felt like the game was really, really competitive. I know Game Six wasn't as close down the stretch, and Jason Tatum struggled a little in that game, but you gotta give the Heat a lot of credit, man. You and I have talked about this 100 times on the podcast. They're a team. They are the most true team in the it's not one guy that can beat you, it's five guys that can beat you. I mean, you got Robinson, you got Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic has been sensational for them in this postseason run. And then you got veterans like Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala, guys who can hit shots in big moments.
mm,
And a lot of credit goes to that organization. They've done a sensational job. And they have their toughest opponent yet. It's going to be a great series. I love the storylines because of LeBron's,
yeah.
career in Miami, and now he's playing Miami. So it's going to be a great series, but a lot of credit to the Miami Heat and a lot of credit to Bam Adebayo. I didn't even mention him. He had a huge game six, 32, 14, and 5. He has been sensational. He was sensational in that series as well.
Mm,
And look, Miami, they've proved everybody wrong. They proved me wrong. I didn't think they were going to be as good of a team in the playoffs as they were in the regular season because I thought it came down to having a big star, and a big star could carry you all the way. But I was wrong. I mean, Jimmy Butler might be their star, but he doesn't, he's not like a give me the ball and get out of the way kind of guy. And they've just done an incredible job, and I think it's going to be a great series against the Lakers.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I saw something today that said like, betting odds predict that the Lakers will easily beat the Miami Heat, and I just think like, are we gonna have people continually underestimating Miami? Like, I really don't like that because I get LeBron James is great. He was on my Cleveland Cavaliers. I know how good he is, but
Mm-hmm.
this Miami Heat team, we've said it so many times, we don't need to say it again, how well-rounded they are. And they're more well-rounded than this Lakers team. The Lakers, the back end of their bench
Agree.
is definitely weaker. I mean, I think Kyle Kuzma is a liability. I think Rajon Rondo is a shell of himself of what he used to be. I think
Mm-hmm.
Alex Caruso is nice
Mm-hmm.
off the bench, but the point being, the Heat have a much more well-rounded team. So I think the series will be very competitive. But talking about the Celtics series with the Heat, I've been on the Heat bandwagon for quite some time. So I really was expecting them to win. I think I actually said
Did
in
you?
six.
I think you
I
got in six. I said Heat in seven. I remember
did.
that, but I think you said Heat in six as well. So
I did,
yeah,
I
you
did
got
say
that
I did say
exactly
Heat in
right.
six, and this went kind of how I thought. I mean, it was a very close series. It could have easily gone seven, like you said. The Celtics are a very good team, but I really don't know. I think at the end of the day, Butler, Adebayo, and Tyler Hero just ended up playing better than Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown. And that's ended up what happening. I think for the Celtics, they need a center. Like you can always say there's holes on a team, but I mean when your center in game six ends up going for, I don't know, 6 points and doesn't really fill out the stat sheet in any way. It gets out rebounded by a couple guards. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of just surface level statistical stuff, but you watch him, and Daniel Tice isn't really a threat anywhere other than on the defensive end of the floor. I think that they can maybe get a better center. But the Celtics are going to go to the finals eventually. It's just a matter of when. Um, but we'll see what happens. I want to say Tyler Hero was spectacular in this series. I think we're seeing another
He
star
was.
emerge. And he might not ever be a superstar, but he'll be probably at some point in his career an all-star level player. He is sensational. He had 37 points, I believe, in game four. I believe it was game four. He was just amazing. And in the whole series, he averaged in the, I think, like around 22 points a game or 20 points a game. He was fantastic. And it's just fun to watch a guy come into his own like that, particularly in the playoffs as a rookie. That's just sensational. So I think that's been awesome. And we'll see what happens in this Lakers Heat series.
I agree, and I guess we're segueing. I know the agenda said we're going to talk about this next, but we've already kind of segued into the
Yeah.
Lakers Heat series. And I think this is the interesting dynamic in this series because I think everyone would agree the two best Lakers are on the. Oh, so excuse me, the two best players are on the Lakers and LeBron and AD.
Mhm.
So the Lakers have the two best players, but then I could argue the next five are all Miami Heat. You know, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all Miami Heat. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic of will the two players for LA dominate, or will the team aspect of Miami cause trouble, and will the Lakers need a guy like Rondo or a guy like Kuzma or Caldwell Pope, guys who have stepped up sporadically throughout the playoffs, be consistent in this finals to win? Ultimately, I'm going to say my prediction right now. I'm going to go Lakers in 6, and I know I bet against the Miami Heat a lot, but I do think LeBron is on a mission. I think the Heat are a very young team, and I just think the Heat are 1 year away from winning a championship. I think the Lakers, I think this is just their time. I think it's destiny. Maybe it's the whole Kobe Bryant situation. I feel like it is destiny for the Lakers to win it this year. And I do think that playoff experience, especially with a guy like Rajon Rondo, playoff Rondo is a real thing. He is a different player in the postseason. Danny Green has championship experience. LeBron James obviously has a lot of playoff and championship experience. I think that will carry them, past the Miami Heat, but it's going to be tough because the Miami Heat have grown up before our eyes, and they got an incredible team down there for the next however many years if they stick together.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you said it well in the sense of Miami they just have a great core of guys. And I want to say, I think that people too often say that, oh, they can just, it's their time next year. When a team hits the finals, I think it's important to realize how hard it is. And Eric Spoelstra said this yesterday in his post-game interview. He said, it's really hard to do this. It's really hard to bring your team all the way just to the NBA Finals. People forget how difficult it is. Some teams make it look easy. LeBron's made it look easy. He's done it 10 times now. So I don't know. I just think that everyone needs to realize how difficult it is just to continually get back to the NBA Finals. But talking about this series, I agree. I think the Lakers will win it. I really like Miami. I just think LeBron's too good. LeBron, as you said, he's always on a mission going to the finals, but this time he's not going up against an elite Warriors team. He's going up
Right.
against a solid Miami team, but it's no Golden State Warriors. So I think that the Lakers will actually win this in 7. I think
Okay.
that Miami might jump out to a quick lead, as has happened in a lot of these Lakers series. But I think that they'll battle, but the Lakers will pull away and win Game 7 at the end. But you're right. I mean, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and even seventh players, best players in the series, are all Miami Heat players. So I mean, we'll see if their well-rounded approach is better than the superstar approach of the Lakers. We'll see what happens, but I'm just really excited for this series because it's going to be a grind. Both teams are very good on the offensive and
Mm-hmm.
defensive side, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just gonna be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Um.
All right. I think that concludes. Oh, actually, we have one more thing to talk about the NBA real quick.
Sure.
Almost
Yeah.
skipped
Let's
over it.
touch on it real quick.
This is switching gears a little bit, but news broke today that Doc Rivers was officially fired by the
Mm.
Los Angeles Clippers. Ryan, I want your thoughts on that, whether or not it was the right decision, and whether or not Doc Rivers will get picked up by anybody. Just curious there.
Trevor, it's kind of funny. We're talking about this because just last week we were just talking about the lack of leadership in LA for the Clippers,
We
and
were, we were.
and now and I said Doc Rivers had to step up, and he didn't, and they lost, and now look, Doc Rivers is gone after 7 years with that team. I mean, he's not there anymore. So I think I just think that's telling that Doc Rivers was fired because clearly there was a lack of leadership on his end, which is surprising to me because he's such a veteran coach, an experienced coach in finals and the playoffs, that he was just
Mm-hmm.
clearly not the right leader for this team. We'll see where they go from here. But I think people are talking about Tyronn Lue being the next head coach, which I think would be a mistake. Tyronn Lue is not a vocal leader. I mean, like LeBron led the team when he was the head coach, and Tyronn Lue was just there, kind of in the background, doing a good job, but he had his role. He wasn't the vocal leader. So I think the Clippers, we talked about this, I think they need someone who can step up and lead them, as a mouthpiece. And I guess Doc Rivers wasn't it. And I was surprised by this, but if he wasn't the vocal leader, they need someone who will be. So
I was a little surprised as well that they fired Doc Rivers, because he did deserve a lot of the blame, but I also thought a lot of his players didn't really step up, and
Mm.
a lot of the Clippers players in general were just never really bought into the bubble, which I think is a little bit on the coaching staff, but also a little bit on the individual players. You're getting paid to go play basketball. You got to be able to buy in, even though it's the bubble. It's not the best situation ever. So, what I will say though is, I actually think I'm thinking about it more and more. Sometimes it's better to fire a guy a little earlier than expected than to wait it out and wait to fire him until it's become a disaster.
Mhm.
And I think a great example of this is the Dallas Cowboys. They waited so long to fire Jason Garrett year after year. He kept staying, he kept staying. Finally, they pulled the trigger. I think Atlanta's falling into that trap as well with Dan Quinn. We'll talk a little bit more about Atlanta
Yep.
on this podcast. But sometimes I think it's better to fire a guy maybe a year before you were expecting to than to wait a year after. And I think that's what happened here with the Clippers. They had seen in the past Doc Rivers had choked. I mean, I don't know if he's choked individually, but he has not been able to get the Clippers to a conference finals. The Clippers gave him the team that he was asking for. They got Kawhi Leonard. They brought in Paul George. And then how about some of their midseason acquisitions? Marcus Morris. They bring in Reggie Jackson. They already have Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell. And a lot of people thought this team should win the finals. I thought they were going to win the finals. I thought they had the best team.
Same.
So I do think there's a lot of accountability and a lot of blame on Doc Rivers' shoulders. And I'm curious to see who they're going to hire. I haven't thought about too much who they're going to hire yet,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. Will they bring Kawhi in on this decision?
I don't
I don't know
know.
if Kawhi has that kind of power like LeBron kind of does. But the whole Clipper situation is going to be interesting, and I don't think the Clippers are going to be a dumpster fire. I think they're going to be right back in it next year.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
know. I think I'm back and forth on the decision, but I'll see who they hire, and then I'll give you a better answer on if it was a good decision or
Sure. Yeah, there we go.
not.
There we go. And with that, I think we can move on from the NBA, and we'll talk more about the obviously the NBA Finals when those games begin. But we're going to move on to some NFL here. And Trevor, if you don't mind, I'm going to start off with a game I wanted to talk about this week in
Go
the
ahead.
Chicago Bears and the Atlanta Falcons. Now,
Mm,
we
mm.
talked about the Falcons last week, and we're going to talk about them again this week. They were up 26-10 going into the fourth quarter this week. Mitch Trubisky was benched by the Chicago Bears. All hope seemed to be lost for the Chicago Bears. And then Nick Foles comes in. And Nick Foles scores 1 touchdown. Nick Foles scores 2 touchdowns. Nick Foles scores 3 touchdowns. Nick Foles put up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The Falcons had 2 first downs, I believe, in the fourth quarter. Capitalized with a Matt Ryan pick. And they just looked horrible. I mean, I wanted to talk about this because they looked great for 3 quarters. They had this in the bag. The Bears were beaten down. They weren't even confident in their quarterback. Todd Gurley was running well, averaging almost 6 yards a carry. Matt Ryan was having an efficient game, no turnovers, had a touchdown, only sacked twice. And the defense was actually playing decently, only gave up 10 points through 3 quarters. And then the fourth quarter came. And I think I wanted to talk about this game just because I think that it's all mental. All mental. This isn't about that the Falcons are a worse team than the Bears. This is about going in the fourth quarter, choking a lead last week, and not playing well in the fourth quarter the week before, and just
Mm-hmm.
not being confident and losing and allowing big plays. The offense stagnates in the fourth after 3 full quarters of great solid play. So this is all mental to me. I feel really bad for them. Dan Quinn needs to step it up. He needs to show his leadership here, turn this team around, turned around their mentality somehow. If not, I think you're right. I think he's on the hot seat. I think he could get fired this year. And the Falcons do need to pull the trigger if he continues to lose these close games. Because you're right. Sitting on a coach who you're probably going to end up firing someday is not a smart move. You just got to pull the plug sooner rather than later. So, yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that or not?
No, somehow the Bears are 3-0, which, in my opinion,
Ugh.
they're the worst 3-0 team in NFL history. But whatever, that's besides the point.
Wow.
Yeah, Atlanta is all mental, and it's almost like a Clipper situation. When it's going well, it's going well, but when there's a moment of adversity, they crumble. I mean, it's just choking. It's straight up choking. There's no other better way to describe it. They stop executing on offense. Their defense can't stop anybody. And again, this is on Dan Quinn. You have to be able to find a way to will your players. You have to be able to find a way to keep your players motivated for 60 minutes. That's part of your job as
Mm.
being head coach. And this has happened too many times. It started with the Super Bowl, obviously, most famously 28-3. It happened last week against Dallas. They're up 20-0 in the first quarter, up 39-24 with 5 minutes remaining. And then this weekend, they're up 26-10. And look, 16-point leads, 15-point leads are big in the NFL. Those are big leads to overcome, especially in a
Mm.
fourth quarter or in 5 minutes. So Atlanta, they just, I think I don't know how to like fix it because they're so deep into it. In my opinion, I think they need to fire Dan Quinn
Mm.
and maybe spark something with players. I don't know if the players have quit on Dan Quinn yet, but there seems to be something wrong in that locker room because I don't know how you keep blowing these big leads like that. I
Yeah.
think they need to fire Dan Quinn midseason, promote a well-liked assistant in the locker room to head coach, interim coach,
Mm.
and see if he can spark some motivation in the locker room, see if he can spark inspiration in the locker room, because whatever's happening right now in Atlanta is just not working. So that's
Yeah.
my 2 cents on that game. But
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, and then with that, do you want to just move on to a game that you wanted to talk about?
perfect, let's do it. I think this is the most overlooked game of the weekend.
Okay.
Maybe not actually. This was a fantastic that
Mm.
fortunately was, in my opinion, it didn't have an asterisk next to it because of a pass interference call. But I want to talk about the Rams Bills game.
Mm.
And I want to talk about Josh Allen for just a second. He's been sensational. He was great in that game. And then how about that 28-3 comeback by the Los Angeles Rams? I mean, I looked at the score when I woke up Sunday morning. I woke up pretty late on Sunday. I was like, wow, 28-3. Like, I did not expect that.
Mm.
And then I go downstairs and I watch the second half of the game and I see Jared Goff executing. You know, he's hitting my guy Cooper Kupp. He's hitting Robert Woods. They were able to run the ball in the second half. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders. Their defense was able to get stops.
Mm.
And then I will give Josh Allen a lot of credit because when you give up a 25-point lead, it is kind of it's like shell shocking. Like it's shocking. It's hard to turn it back on and be able to fix it. And he led a really good drive, put his team in a position to win the game. He got the benefit of, in my opinion, a really bad pass interference call. I don't see how you call that pass interference, especially in that situation. And I know you're not supposed to, change how you officiate a game based on the situation, but that's not pass interference in any situation. That's just hand fighting by both players. And you saw the Rams guy when the Buffalo Bills receiver made his cut. The Rams receiver backs up and puts his hands up. Like, I didn't do anything. I didn't hold him. We were hand fighting. It was a physical route. It was a physical play. And it's unfortunate because the refs, I won't say decided that game, but that was a 4th and 9 play, that really saved the Buffalo Bills. And then credit to Josh Allen. He made a great throw to his receiver or his tight end in the end zone right after that for a touchdown. But just an overall great game, 2 playoff teams, in my opinion. And it's unfortunate for the Rams because I thought they got robbed a little bit. But what are your thoughts on,
Yeah, just
particularly on that call?
yeah, just real quick. I mean, I think it was a great comeback by the Rams. I mean, both teams are really good. You're right; they're both playoff teams, both great offensively and defensively. But that call is just. I really don't know how if you're, and this has been a problem for years in the NFL. It's been a problem for years, and in the NBA, it's a problem in both sports, honestly. With the refs controlling the end of these games, with crucial foul calls or crucial penalties when it matters most. A 4th and 9 and it's a at best it's a questionable PI. I didn't even think it was PI, honestly. And to throw the
Here, I
flag,
can tell you why. Like
mm,
why I listened to Mike Pereira's. He's like the head
okay,
like referee for Fox,
sure,
and this
yeah,
is why he said it was pass interference. He actually agreed with the call, which I was very surprised with. He said, obviously in the NFL, you're allowed to hold and make contact with a receiver within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And on the play, it does look like there is contact past 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, and he claims that right there, that's pass interference.
mm,
But in my opinion, it looked like contact from both sides. It looked like both players were just hand fighting, and it didn't look like any kind of resistive contact where it was a holding or getting to a guy and hitting him before the ball gets there. It just looked like good physical hand fighting. It didn't look like penalizing contact, but that was the logic for the referee to make the call because there was that extended contact past 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. I disagree with it. Clearly you disagree with it as well.
mm.
And it's just frustrating because that was a great game and a great comeback. And the refs, low key may have decided that football game. But I'll let you close it
Yep.
out on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the refs decided the game, and I don't like that. I think that unless it's a blatant call, I don't think you call a penalty on the final play of a game like that. So I mean, that's just kind of my stance in general. Unless it's like really, really egregious, I think you kind of just let them play. So that's kind of my stance. I really don't like those
Mm.
ticky-tacky calls, especially on a 4th down with 10 seconds left. So yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
my view on it. But I don't know. I mean, the Bills are 3-0 now. I mean, they're a very good team, and the Rams are 2-1. So we'll see what happens. And moving on from that, I'm going to talk about for a couple minutes the Cowboys-Seahawks game. Now, the Cowboys and the Seahawks, they went at it. The final score was 38-31 Seattle, and both offenses were amazing. Dak Prescott threw for almost 500 yards. Russell Wilson threw for
Yeah.
five touchdowns. I mean, both players were great. Zeke had a really bad day on the ground, actually, only averaging about 2.4 yards per carry, only had 34 yards. And Tyler Lockett got lazy at the 2-yard line and fumbled the ball into the back of the end zone on a 60-yard bomb.
You mean DK Metcalf?
Or DK Metcalf, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, DK Metcalf just got lazy on the 2-yard line, which is that's like Deshaun Jackson-esque. So that made the game a little closer than it had to be. But I mean, the Seahawks, I think the takeaway from this is the Seahawks are just fantastic in spite of their defense. Now, their defense is honestly, it's not quite historically bad, but it's very bad. I mean, they're giving up a ton of points every game. I believe they've given up, I believe it's over 30 points a game or around 30 points a game through 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not good. And obviously they can overcome it because Russell Wilson's sensational. And Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are both fantastic. Yeah, they're 3-0. And I want to say Dak Prescott made a sensational play. I don't know if you saw this on the final offensive play for the Cowboys. Made a fantastic play to get away from pressure. Almost anyone else would have fallen and taken the sack, but he somehow got away, squared his shoulders, throws it right to Seahawks corner. So that was just kind of unfortunate. But I mean, the Cowboys were really close. Now they're 1-2. I mean, it seems like the NFC East is going to be quite bad this year. We'll see how that pans out. But I still think
You got that right.
I still think the Cowboys will make the playoffs. I still think they're a good team. They just seem to not be able to get over the hump a lot of times in these close games. Obviously, they beat Atlanta, but a lot of these close games, they seem just to not quite be able to do it. So, I mean, we'll see if that's consistent. But, yeah, Trevor, any quick thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not ready to close the door on Dallas yet because they've played two really good teams. You know, they lost to the Los Angeles Rams by 3, and there was a very debatable pass interference call in that game as well that went actually the Rams' favor, ironically. And then they played Seattle. You know, they played them pretty tight. They got down big early, which I think is their biggest problem. Dallas needs to stop getting off to slow starts. You know, they're digging themselves into these holes. We saw it last week against Atlanta as well. They were able to make a miraculous comeback. But it's not sustainable to play from behind, you know, by double digits in every game. And that's not going to win you a lot of football games in this league. And Dallas needs to figure it out on defense as well. Their defense has been horrible.
Yeah.
Gave up 40 to Atlanta, 38 to Seattle. I know Russell Wilson is brilliant, but that defense is horrible. They need to figure it out there. And I got to give a lot of credit to Dak Prescott because he is, you know, he's been the one guy that's kept them in these games. I think, you know, with Zeke not running great, especially against Seattle, I thought Dak Prescott has done a sensational job just doing whatever he can to keep his Cowboys in the game. He's gotten no help from his defense. His O-line is not as good this year. And as you mentioned it, he threw for almost 500 yards against the Seahawks yesterday. He threw for over 450 against Atlanta last week. You know, he ran for 3 touchdowns. He threw 3 touchdowns with takes. Prescott been doing it. Yeah, Dallas needs to get off to faster starts and they need to figure it out on defense. But I still think they're going to win this division based on what I've seen through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think they're far and away the best team in that division. But yeah, the NFC East, man, is a mess. The NFC East is a disaster.
2 wins in that division through 3 weeks. 2.
Combined by 4 teams.
By 4 teams. It's unbelievable, actually, if you think about it. So, yeah, I mean, with that, Trevor, do you want to move on to your final game that you want to talk about this week? And the Packers, I believe, and the Saints was the game?
Yeah. No, this was also a very entertaining game Sunday night. I don't have too much to say about this. I know people are going to maybe worry about this Drew Brees and the Saints. They're 1-2. Like, what's happening? I wouldn't worry too much about the Saints. I worry a little bit, but I thought Drew Brees did play very well last night. And I got to give Aaron Rodgers a lot of credit, man, because Russell Wilson's playing at an MVP level, but so is Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, right now, Wilson have my vote, no doubt. But Aaron Rodgers has arguably been the second best player in this league through 3 games. He had another great game last night, threw for 283, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was doing that without Devontae Adams. You know, so that's the second best receiver on that team is Allen Lazard. I mean, that's pretty incredible. The guys that he was throwing the football to last night. And the efficiency at how he was so accurate, some of those throws he made, the incredible poise in the pocket, the ability to scramble, throw on the run.
Hmm.
And I have one quick stat, and this is to just show you how great Aaron Rodgers is. In his entire career, he has thrown 2 touchdown passes to first round draft picks in his entire career.
That's
Yet,
unbelievable.
yet, Green, yet Green Bay won't draft a receiver in the first round. Instead, they draft a quarterback and then they draft a running back in the second round, which makes legitimately no sense to me. Anyways, back to Aaron Rodgers' greatness. He was sensational yesterday. The Saints defense wasn't great. I thought Drew Brees played very well, although I do think Alvin Kamara was a big part of that because his ability to just dump the ball off to Kamara and let Kamara get yards after the catch is
Yep.
big time. Um, but look, man, the Packers are a contender. The Saints will be fine. And all of a sudden, the Buccaneers, after we were all panicking after week one, the Buccaneers are winning the NFC South. So there you go.
Yep. I mean, all these teams need is time. All these new teams like the Buccaneers, like the Browns, a lot of these teams just need time. No preseason, limited training camp. Okay, I'm sorry I threw the Browns in there, but
He had to throw his
hey.
Browns in. I didn't even talk about my Cardinals, so
But
we won't talk about that.
yeah, I want to talk about this Saints Packers game real quick. I wanted to mention one important thing. Drew Brees, I think he is struggling more than people will say. I think he is because Drew Brees has never been a guy to throw. He's always been about accuracy. He's never been a guy who throws deep a lot, but he had the ability. He always has. This season, he has averaged 4.8 yards per depth of target. So for every throw he's making, on average, he's throwing the ball in the air less than 5 yards. That to me is unbelievable. And the fact that a Hall of Fame quarterback is now throwing each throw is an average of 4.8 yards in the air, that's a little worrisome to me. Because he has Emmanuel Sanders, he has Traquan Smith, he has Jared Cook, he has some guys who can make some plays. I get Michael Thomas is hurt, but I mean, Alvin Kamara can go downfield as well. Taysom Hill's still there. So I'd be a little bit worried about that. I wouldn't worry about making the playoffs. I think the Saints will make the playoffs. I think they have a really good defense, although they got lit up yesterday. I still think they have a really solid defense. I think that Breeze is still going to be just fine,
Mm-hmm.
but I just feel a little bit worried
Mm-hmm.
that he's not throwing down the field as much as he used to, and just it's just something that I want everyone to keep an eye on as the season progresses. But I agree on Aaron Rodgers. He's been sensational when
I think you
out.
make a good point there.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting stat that you mentioned with the
depth of target.
throwing, yeah, 4.8 yards on air or
Yep.
on average for how far the ball's traveling in the air. That is very worrisome. I didn't realize it was that severe. Drew Brees has always been like a guy, like you said, about accuracy, and we saw with last year a lot of dinking and dunking with Michael Thomas. But yeah, but 4.8 yards is a little bit concerning.
Yeah.
I do think the Saints will figure it out. They do have a very good defense, and I do think Michael Thomas coming back will open up some things for them a little bit. But yeah, I think it is a little concerning. But they've played a couple hard games. They beat the Buccaneers and they played the Packers, so they played 2 very hard games out of 3 so far. So I wouldn't press the panic button yet. But yeah, there's definitely a little bit of concern there in New Orleans. And I know you
Yeah.
have one more game real quick that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Just
Why you want to talk about this game? I got no idea, but go ahead.
listen. We don't have to touch on it. It's fine. I just wanted
No,
to
no, no, go.
say.
You might as well. You might as well.
I just wanted to say something for about 60 seconds about the Browns and the Washington game. I know I talk about the Browns every week, but I need to get my 60-second spiel in. The Browns, I mean, they won 34-20. They looked really good. I mean, the defense kind of bent but didn't break. Dwayne Haskins is terrible. He had 4 turnovers. Washington had 5 turnovers. Baker didn't turn over the ball once. Absolutely sensational. He played just the way he's supposed to. Wasn't even that accurate this week, but he had a QBR, I believe, of about 115. I believe he had a rating of 117. My bad. He played very solidly, and just Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Need I say more? They had 160 yards on about 4.3 yards per carry. They're just the spearhead of this team. They're going to be sensational all year. I think it's going to be the best running back duo in the NFL. Yards wise, output wise, I think honestly the Browns can definitely get top 5 in the league in rushing this year as a team, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see if OBJ seems happy. He seems happy right now. I mean, as long as we win, I think it'll be okay. But I feel bad for Terry McLaurin and Ron Rivera because this team just has no talent outside of Terry McLaurin and Chase Young, and Chase Young got hurt. So that's just tough. I just wanted to say a quick thing about my Browns and that the defense is getting healthier. So I'm happy about that. But we can move on from that. I just wanted to say a quick thing about them. Um,
No, I'll one quick thought since you
oh,
mentioned it.
okay, okay.
And this is what I said on the podcast last week. The
Mm,
Browns are going to win by running the ball first and throwing the ball second. They need to abuse Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That way they can limit the amount of time Baker has to throw the ball, and
mm,
that way they'll limit their turns, limit their mistakes, and that's how they're going to win football games. And they showed it again yesterday. Nick Chubb dominated on the ground against a pretty decent Washington D line.
mm.
Not a great elite D line, but a pretty good one. Chubb dominated on the ground. Baker Mayfield played another solid game against a no-name secondary. But yeah, the Browns are 2-1. It's the first time they've been above 500 in 6 years. So congratulations, Ryan. It'll be short-lived. Enjoy it.
Okay,
Well, with your joke of a schedule, it might not be short-lived.
there we go.
But again, Baker showed me nothing. Cleveland really showed me nothing. They beat a really bad team easily. So like whatever.
I
It's a
mean,
good win, I guess.
Cardinals lost to the Detroit Lions, so that's a tough one.
That hurts. You don't need to bring that one up. You don't
I'm
need to bring
sorry.
that one up.
I'm sorry. All right. I mean, with that, we can move on. We have Trevor and I just have two quick teams we want to talk about that we're very disappointed in through the first 3 weeks. And Trevor, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead real quick and give my
Absolutely
my
good.
team. My team's the Minnesota Vikings. They've been really, really bad this year so far. I believe Kirk Cousins has 6 interceptions on the year. Already through 3 games. He had 2
Sheesh.
more against the Titans. He had 3 against the Colts the week prior. He's just looked really bad. Justin Jefferson looks like, we both talked about him in months prior, he looks like he's going to be great. Had 175 yards and a touchdown for the Vikings, was his breakout game, but they still lost. Dalvin Cook was amazing, had 180 yards and a touchdown on the ground, still lost. This defense, the Vikings defense, is not good. I mean, like I honestly I know a lot. I know a lot of players in the NFL. I couldn't name you a single corner on the Minnesota Vikings, and that is an issue. Their secondary outside of Harrison Smith
Yeah.
is a big concern. And I don't know if I'm a Vikings fan. I'm very concerned. I don't know how good Kirk Cousins is without Kevin Stefanski as the O coordinator, and seeing as without Stefanski, he's now 0-3 to start the season. I would definitely be worried. I think Cousins needs to, obviously limit the turnovers and just
Hmm.
Feed Dalvin Cook. I mean, that seems to be the only solution. And maybe try to trade for a corner because they are getting absolutely burned consistently. I mean, and I don't know, they're getting run all over as well. I mean, Derrick Henry had 120 yards the week prior. Jonathan Taylor, I believe, had almost 100 yards. So they're just getting rolled on defense. And then the week before, the Packers destroyed them on defense. So they just need some help in the secondary, and Kirk Cousins needs to stop turning the ball over. So I am very disappointed in them.
Yeah, they've been horrible. The
Yep.
team I would like to mention as the most disappointing team through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I've defended Carson Wentz a lot. I'm open. I still think he's a very talented quarterback. There's not a great system around him.
Mm,
But I do have to say this, he has really struggled. I mean, his average QBR this year is 35.5 on a scale of 0 to 100 in 3 games. That's not good. That's well below average.
yeah.
The Eagles are 25th in the NFL in passing yards. They're 27th in scoring. I mean, their offense has just been a disaster. I know they've had a lot of injuries, but a lot of teams have injuries this year. I mean, we saw San Francisco. They put up 40 against, albeit the New York Giants, but San Francisco was playing with backups and they put up 40 against the Giants. The Eagles played the Bengals yesterday at home and couldn't get a result against a Bengals team playing a rookie quarterback and virtually nothing around him. So for me, if I'm a Philadelphia fan, I am very worried. I'm very worried about Carson Wentz. I'm worried about my lack of talent around Carson Wentz. The defense really hasn't been that good this year either. And overall, Philadelphia's been a big disappointment because I thought they were at least going to be competitive in this division. Unfortunately, I think they will be competitive just because the division is so bad.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Philadelphia has been terrible. And I'm making a prediction now. I would not be surprised if the NFC East went below 500. I could see a 7-9 NFC East winner make the playoffs.
I mean, I will say real quick, I think that's very possible. I just think the Cowboys will be a little bit better than 7-9. But yeah, I think it's very
Okay.
possible. I think it's very possible. You're right that the winner of that division is below 500. And I mean, we'll see. That
And
looks
they'll
like
get
it's.
a home playoff game. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, that's sheesh. If someone goes 7-9 and gets a home playoff game in the first round, that's a little ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe someone steps it up, but if not, If not, then we're going to have a terrible team making the playoffs regardless. And with that, Trevor,
Mm-hmm.
I think that might just about do it. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but I think we've kind of gone through, a lot of NBA and NFL this week.
No, I think that's it. Go Cardinals. We had a small slip up in week 3 against the Lions. The
Mm.
Lions are a very good team. They played the 3-0 Bears, the 3-0 Packers.
They're
So the Lions were not as bad as people think. They
okay.
got Kenny Galladay back. Just had to throw that in there. Go Cardinals. We'll be back. We'll be in Carolina next weekend, no problem.
Mm.
And that's all I got to say, Ryan. I'll let you close it out.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to close it out by saying Browns play the Cowboys next week. Big game. I'm excited. I think we can beat them because the Cowboys' defense is like a piece of paper. So we'll see what happens. But
I love these closings. We're talking about our own teams.
I know. But with that, I think we're going to close out podcast number 20, and we'll be back next week with some more NBA and NFL talk, and we'll be sure to talk about some MLB playoffs as well, as those will be starting up this week. So see you guys next week, and thanks for watching.